join us. I do see that we have a quorum. I have a few housekeeping items to go over before we begin. Please turn off or silence all personal communication devices. The applicant and members of the public may speak to any item before the Plan Commission when the relevant item to which you wish to speak is called and public comment is opened. Unless an exception is made by the Plan Commission, the following rules will apply. The applicant will be given 10 minutes to present any information they wish the Plan Commission to consider. Thereafter, members of the public will be given up to 5 minutes to address the specific item before the Plan Commission. Members of the public may only speak once per called agenda item unless a Plan Commission member requires clarification or wishes to ask you a question. Questions or statements from the podium after your stated name and address and within the allowed time constraints are taken into consideration. After all community members have had an opportunity to speak on the agenda item called, the applicant will be asked if they have a final statement for the Plan Commission, and the Commission may take action on that agenda item. The Common Council has adopted rules of decorum for city boards and commissions, including the adoption of a civility pledge. No person shall personally attack a board or commission member, city official, staff, or any other person. No person shall make irrelevant, unduly repetitive, offensive, threatening, slanderous, defamatory, or obscene remarks or act in such a manner as to disrupt or disturb the orderly conduct of the meeting. This includes hand clapping, stomping of feet, whistling, shouting, or other demonstrations. I thank you all for your understanding. Now on to the agenda. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nichols?
Here.
Mr. Belleville?
Here.
Miss Davy?
Here.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Here.
Mr. Bowen?
Here.
Miss Shireman?
Here.
Miss Prop?
Here.
Vice Chair Kiefer? Chairman Perry?
Here.
8 board members present.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Mr. Bellevue as his first meeting as a Plan Commission member. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, approval of the August 20th, 2024 minutes.
Move to accept as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Mr. Belleville?
In those last meeting minutes, it has me as present and excused, and I was not present at that meeting.
So noted. Thank you. Okay, we have a modification to the minutes.
Move to modify as stated.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the modified minutes. Any other discussion? Okay, all those we can have a voice vote. All those in favor of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes pass. Item number 1 is a specific implementation plan amendment for an additional outdoor storage at 3815 Oregon Street. Generac Power Systems is the owner and the applicant. Have there been any site inspections? Okay, those are so noted. I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present your summary.
Thank you, Chairman. So the subject area consists of an existing 22.6 acre parcel. It is an industrial site known as Generac Power Systems. The site is zoned heavy industrial with a plan development overlay. The property is located at the southwest corner of Oregon Street and West Ripple Avenue. The existing structures include an approximate 260,000 square foot manufacturing building, a large off-street parking area, retention pond, and an outdoor storage area. Does this cursor work? Which can be seen here. The surrounding area consists of industrial and institutional uses to the north, residential and undeveloped land to the east and south, and industrial use to the west. And the subject site is part of the, and the surrounding area is part of the Aviation Industrial Park. On September 27th, 2022, the Common Council approved a zone change as well as a general development and specific implementation plan to allow for that outdoor storage area that I showed just before to the north and west sides of the existing building. And since that approval in 2022, Generac has determined that more outdoor storage is required to properly facilitate their business needs, and therefore they're requesting an additional area. This is showing the approximate area of the area that they're asking for more additional storage. As you can see, this was not part of the original approval in 2022. So according to the applicant, Generac is requesting to create that new area, which is approximately 180 by 28 feet in size, and it is in the front yard of their property at 3815 Oregon Street. The area proposed for outdoor storage currently consists of asphalt, which would be this white area here. And then I believe the red and white checkered areas would be what is now currently grass. The new, the setback for each of those areas would be 60 feet from the west property line and 60 feet from the south property line. The additional pavement of approximately 5,200 square feet would result in a total of 61.1% of impervious surface, which is under the maximum 70% for the heavy industrial zoning district. Outdoor storage areas are required to be screened with a minimum 8-foot tall solid fence. However, fences are limited to 4 feet in the front yard. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a base standard modification to allow for that 8-foot tall fence in the provided front yard. The applicant intends on installing this similar chain link fencing with 90% privacy slats, as they did with the rest of their storage areas. According to the applicant, the area is needed to effectively store their wood dunnage and large frames on site, which you could see in the previous picture. And that area would also serve to place a semi-trailer that is used to remove that wood dunnage off the site. So they kind of use it to store it until it fills up, and then they take it off the site and replace the trailer. You can see here too on the plan, on the bottom of it, the applicant is proposing to install 3 additional maple or birch trees to help offset that BSM request for the 8-foot tall fence. There is some landscaping that's already existing kind of here, and the fence would be sitting behind that, but again, they're just proposing 3 additional trees there. So with that, staff does recommend approval with the findings and conditions listed in the staff report.
Okay, thank you very much. Plan Commission, do you have any technical questions to the staff? Any technical questions to staff? Okay, I'm seeing none. We will allow public comment on this. Is the applicant available, and do they wish to comment on this project?
I am available. I don't have any further comment.
Thank you. Any members of the public wish to comment on this project? Are there any members of the public that wish to comment on this project? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'm going to close the public comment period. We don't need a closing statement from the applicant, so Plan Commission, the action is upon you.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on this motion? All right, I'm seeing none. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Belleville?
Aye.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Aye.
Mr. Bowen?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman? Aye. Ms. Prog?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a specific implementation plan amendment for a third-floor addition at 250 West 6th Avenue. Theta Care Incorporated is the owner, HTA is the applicant. Has there been any site inspections? Okay, those are so noted. And I will accept the staff report as part of the record, so please present your summary, please.
Thank you. The subject site is the Theta Care site on the corner of Oregon Street and West 6th Avenue. In 2023, a plan development was approved for a Theta Care hospital. It was approved to have 2 stories. The applicant is requesting an SIP amendment to allow a 3rd story, so the building will retain its existing footprint, and again, just adding a 3rd story and also adding parking stalls to meet the interior floor square footage requirement for additional parking. The applicant states that it will be a shell area, so at this time they don't have specific users for that space, but they would like to build it out so it is ready for that when they do find users. Along with the additional parking, they are meeting the landscaping requirements for the additional parking areas for paved areas, as well as yard landscaping for the additional square footage. So here are the building elevations. They are requesting base standard modifications for specific areas where they're not meeting the 70% Class 1 material requirement. But staff does not have concerns with those. So you can see along the west elevation and then along the north elevation, they have additional areas that are needed for mechanical screening that are not meeting the Class 1 requirement, but the overall building and each facade is meeting the 70% Class 1 material requirement. So here are the images. And staff recommends approval of the SIP amendment with the findings and conditions in your staff report.
Thank you for your report. Plan Commission, are there any technical questions to staff? Any technical, Ms. Davy?
Where they're going to be adding the additional parking for those extra places, is that a place that also needs to be capped because of the remediation of the area?
I believe the applicant will need to provide information on that part of it.
Okay, thanks.
Any other technical questions? Okay, I'm seeing none, so I will open the public comment period and ask the applicant if they would like to make a statement. Is the applicant here? Would you like to make a statement? Please approach the podium and state your name and address for our records, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us here today. I'm Jenny Nicolai, Vice President with ThedaCare, and we are here today to request your approval to support a third floor addition to allow us the opportunity to continue to serve the needs of the Oshkosh community. So I'll provide just a brief overview and a few comments, and then I'll ask Tim Scanley with HGA to provide some additional information specific to our request for you. So if you don't mind moving to the next slide. Is that cooperating? Otherwise, I'm happy just to speak to it if it's not.
I think this is the last slide. Try in the space bar. Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you. So as a Wisconsin-led organization, we have a shared commitment to the people of Wisconsin. We know that demand for access continues to grow in this community, and that right now most healthcare services are located west of I-41, leaving our residents east of I-41 15 minutes or more from emergency or hospital care that they may need. Our planning very much complements existing community development efforts underway in Oshkosh. And if you don't mind moving to the next slide, our community hospital will offer around-the-clock access, easily accessible, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The first 2 floors are planned to be approximately 85,000 square feet, and the third floor expansion provides us with an additional 28,500 square feet, with more services added over time based on the needs of this community. I'd next ask Tim to provide some additional comment. Thank you.
Hi, Tim Scanley from HGA. I'm a design architect, and so I just want to walk over just a couple of highlights on the site plan, and then just go through the renderings and show the building evolution from the 2-story to the 3-story building proposal. The additional parking that we're showing on the site plan is roughly divided in half. Half of that parking is for patient parking on the right-hand side of the site plan, kind of parallel to Oregon Street. There's approximately 55 to 60 stalls there. And then the remaining parking is staff parking that is increased on the west side of the site. In terms of landscaping, we did add about 600 points of landscaping that really shows up on the north side of the site, mainly in those 2 red kind of squares or those boxes along the top of the floor plan. The one on the right-hand side really is a concentration of the majority of that landscaping that really begins to treat that aspect as a really nice staff and public courtyard. So there's an outdoor seating area, a couple of trees, flowering trees. And so where the building kind of meets with the river walk and closest to the river, we're really concentrating some of that additional landscaping. And then there are a couple additional larger trees off to the west that we also added just to maintain and to meet the conditions of the landscape code. We can go to the next slide. This is a previous view of the building that was approved as a two-story. I would say really at the very beginning, our goal when thinking about the third floor expansion was to really make it look like it was part of the original building design. So I think as we kind of move through the building, it really begins to really reflect in a very similar design vocabulary as the first phase. So this is the third floor addition that really builds on the same design vocabulary, as well as using very similar building materials. So we have materials of brick, glass, and then accent materials of wood and metal panel. So really the third floor is most likely a future clinic floor. So it will kind of replicate what's happening on the second floor. And so if this front east elevation, mostly public circulation, mostly public waiting spaces. So there's a lot of natural daylight, a lot of open space with views to downtown and then to the Fox River to the north. The next image is a little bit further down at the main entry drive. Really that kind of glass curtain wall on the second floor, like I said, is expanded to the third floor. Really is a nice quiet backdrop that really celebrates really the main idea of this elevation, which is to draw attention to the front door. So we have that wood framed element, drop-off canopies. Really that's the main focus. And the third floor expansion is really, like I said, a duplication of the second level. And then the mechanical screen wall is basically on top of that third floor. The next view is a little bit closer in to that main drop-off area. Begins to really show kind of the seamless integration of the third floor of the building. And then the next image really go forward so we can see I thought there was another image of the staff entry. One more. Okay, well, let's go to the compilation slide. The image on the upper right-hand side is the view of the building really more towards the southwest, which is really more of the clinical side of the building. And so the function changes a little bit more of a private nature, and so that's why the materiality begins to maintain that brick and punched window vocabulary. And then, like I said, that the third floor really begins to take on a very similar language as phase one. If there's any questions, definitely would love to answer any way possible that I can. Thank you.
Ms. Davy, you have a question?
Yes, the additional parking,
Yes.
is that part of the land that needs to be capped if you do anything with it at all?
So it is part of that area that needs to be capped. That the two different sections, both the east and west, will still have to be approved and go through Wisconsin DNR. Once we know the final layout of that and confirm the exact numbers relative to the functionality of the third floor, we'll go through the proper applications and approvals for that.
Okay, so you won't be building the parking lot right away?
That's correct. Right, so the building shell will be built right away. So for instance, on day one, opening day, it will look like a 3-story building. But that third floor currently is going through some design on the interior build out. And so that's lagging behind a little bit. Once we determine all the functionality of that third floor, we'll then hone in on the exact number of stalls. And then if there are any adjustments to this, most likely they'll be very, very minor. Then we'll go ahead through that proper process.
Thank you.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Could you go back to the four, the tribe, or the, so I'm just walk me through what, so the upper left is looking from the south, and that's the south face? 'Cause I'm just trying to figure out
Sure.
it's a kind of a strange orientation with the angle and
Yeah.
the property, and I'm just not.
So the
quite
upper left is a straight-on view. That's
Like
actually
off of
east.
Sixth?
It's parallel with Oregon Street. So we're exactly parallel with Oregon on the view on the upper left. The lower left is if you're kind of standing across the river, kind of kitty corner to the development, you'd be seeing the one-story hospital, directly across the river. The image on the upper right is on 6th Avenue. I'd say about halfway down the development along 6th Avenue. That's the staff entry to the development. And then the image on the lower right, once again, is the east elevation, the main entrance to the building. Does that help?
Councilmember Nichols?
Thanks. When's the anticipated opening date, and does this delay that date at all by adding the third story?
Yeah. Do you want to answer that?
I'm happy to. Yeah, it's a great question. We anticipate opening in 2025. Our Wisconsin winter will help really determine what that go-live date looks like, but we've committed to 2025.
Sure. Do you think that this will delay the date, adding the third story?
You know, we haven't determined yes or no on that. The third story, obviously the infrastructure is required in order for us to open the facility because you
Sure.
need it for the second floor. So we still believe 2025. The question is when
Sure.
and where within that time period.
And then my other question is, how many inpatient beds are contemplated, and do you anticipate that, I know you mentioned clinic space will likely go to the third floor, would you add additional inpatient beds as part of that, or is it to be determined?
So we have plans right now to open with 10 inpatient beds. We have the ability to grow and will assess based on the needs of the community. That's really what this also gives us an opportunity to do, is to quickly pivot, react, ensure that we're meeting the needs of the community, and we can do that in a timely manner.
Sure, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other questions before I open it? Mr. Lowenstein?
I just because I'm curious, obviously it's almost done, the frame is almost done on the first and second floors, I can see the steel framing. Was the infrastructure built in the foundation for 3 or more floors? Is there another floor in there? I mean, what's it look like under the ground to hold that
Yeah,
weight?
the foundations have been oversized just to give flexibility in the future. A lot of healthcare buildings, especially hospitals, almost all of them will grow to some level. And so it seemed like a good investment to allow that flexibility. So the foundations are oversized to allow that growth. If you didn't have it, you're kind of stuck with the building in phase one. So.
Is there any other comment or questions before I open to public comment? All right, I'm seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak on this agenda item? Any member of the public that wishes to speak? All right, I'm seeing none, so I'm going to close the public comment period. We don't need a closing statement from the applicant unless you really want to make one. All right, Commission, the action is upon you.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendation as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? Any discussion on the motion? All right, I'm seeing none. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. Belleville?
Aye.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Mr. Lowenstein?
Aye.
Mr. Bowen?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairman Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 3 has been withdrawn by the applicant, so the next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We can have a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. We do.